Rastafari lives.
Yes, I Soup. Thanks for that.
Yes, I.
So as we roll on here, we're continuing on with our series. We call it the 2018 Virgin Islands elections. Our home, your home, everybody's home that lives here.
Yes,
we do have
sir.
a guest in the studio tonight. Let me get her on camera there. Boom, there she is. Wave to the crowd. Everybody is watching you worldwide, here, there, and everywhere. And in particular, hopefully everybody here in the Virgin Islands, our 80,000 folks that we have here, they're all tuned in and watching. Thanks for coming in. How are you this evening?
Good night.
I'm doing well. Good night. Good night.
Yes,
Glad to be on. I was reflecting as I made my way up here. Last time I was here, I'm thankful for the opportunity, and of course, in a different
light.
Different light.
Yes.
Different light.
I had my human rights hat on, activist hat on. I still have that hat on, but
Yeah.
now I'm wearing kind of a
So
different
you
hat.
literally wear hat on top of hat, right?
yeah, probably lots of hats. And good night to all the viewers, listeners. I'm glad to be on. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for coming through. So this time now you're running for office. You're running to fill a seat in the St. Croix district in the Virgin Islands.
Yeah, that is correct.
And so you're excited about that?
I am very excited.
Okay.
Very excited.
So give us a little bit of your background. Your who you are, and then we'll kind of take that to what inspired you to do it, or maybe you wanted to do this even from when you were here the last time. You wanted to be a senator. Who knows? Well, tell us about you.
Yeah. Well, I was born and raised here on the island of St. Croix. I attended both parochial and public school, attending St. Mary's, St. Joseph, and I graduated from the educational complex. I then went on to obtain my undergrad degree at the University of Tampa in Government and World Affairs. Following that, I went on to law school, and I focused on international human rights law, one of my specialties, and I was also a public service fellow. During that time, I was also involved in the United Nations Association of the USA. I was served up as a board member. I also, during law school, served as Amnesty International's lobbyist for the state of Florida, particularly focusing on women's and children's issues.
Mm-hmm.
After following law school, I came back home pretty much immediately after. I began first working in the legislature on the 27th as a legal counsel, focusing on drafting legislation and research. We have background. That's something that I've very much an area of passion of mine.
Mm-hmm.
I'm an avid researcher. I've done that most of my life, and writer. In fact, that's was my particular strength. I also have established a company, a consulting company, particularly focusing on. I led first with a lot of work within the legal field in terms of research and writing, nonprofit advocacy, internet marketing,
Okay.
and a special focus on even contract law. I also, a couple years after coming home, I started working at the university part-time, where I still teach. I started teaching in the College of Liberal Arts and Social Science, and teaching courses in criminal justice, specifically juvenile justice and crime prevention.
Okay.
I, for the past 3 years now, have taught in the College of Business, teaching business law.
Okay.
For the past few years. After working at the legislature, I began work after following the legislature. I worked for Leroy and Cameron. I was an associate there. Following that, I've served as a law clerk in the Superior Court. I've also served the former Associate State Director of Communications of AARP. I'll highlight the fact that part of my role there with AARP and serving as the Associate State Director of Communication was encouraging the members, many of course of over 50, to be connected to the internet. But also during that time, I got the opportunity to participate in a lot of programs surrounding, even for example, emergency management, a lot of the efforts of even matter of recycling.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a former board member of the League of Women Voters of the Virgin Islands. During that time, involved in lobby efforts. In fact, speaking of campaigning and campaigns, I was a moderator for a few years for the candidate debates or candidate forums that we held in conjunction with WTJX. I am the co-founder and president of the Virgin Islands Youth Advocacy Coalition. Also founded a few years after I moved home, where I brought together young Virgin Islanders from all 3 islands in a mission to address our civic literacy gap. the organization continues to have worked in the last few years on the issue of decolonization.
Mhm.
I am a 2016 fellow of the International Decade for People of African Descent, representing the youth organization on the matter of Virgin Islanders' right to self-determination in the context of decolonization.
I
And
counted 59 hats there.
So, and I highlight my activism to say that from a very young age, and I go back to my childhood, I was raised by a single grandmother who I'm named after. She'd always encouraged me to be involved. In fact, she reminds me often of the fact that from sundown to sunup on her Saturdays were spent driving me up and down. So I've been this busy all my life. And for her always encouraging me, and even going back to my high school days, I was in Civil Air Patrol. I was one of the first female cadet commanders, and a lot of things I did from a young age. But I even think back about when I was in 8th grade, and I served as a mentor for, the U.S. Attorney's Office had a program for a mentorship program where we assisted children in the housing communities with their homework and after school care, and they brought them to the office and helped. And I never forgot some of my experiences with being also a young person and helping elementary school child. I also reflect on my times during both undergrad and law school, serving as a guardian ad litem for children in the foster care system. I cared for different children who were in the system, and basically being like a caseworker, checking up on their care. So I think there are a lot of things, and just going back to my education, I also have a master's degree in political management after law school and coming home. I haven't been involved in campaigns, both looking at political campaigns, but also when I say campaigns, campaigns for our human rights campaigns. And so I went back and got a master's degree in political management, and my last degree that I obtained is a master's degree in strategic criminal justice management, focusing a lot on youth crime prevention. I'm very passionate about addressing our issues really surrounding prevention, and I really do believe, having witnessed and been part of models of prevention, that it's really possible. So one of my platform items, as I've led with, I've provided you all with my platform, and as I've shared with the public, the platform is something that's important, in that these are my ideas.
Yes.
However, I see my platform as one that's going to evolve. Since filing, just to put out there also as well, just to make everything clear, my last job, of course, is serving as a deputy supervisor of elections. I notified my supervisor back in March of my intention to run, and just like every other government employee, you are required to take a leave of absence once you in fact file your nomination paperwork, which I did this past Tuesday, and that was my final day as I'm now on leave. And also, what I would like to highlight throughout my service as the Deputy Supervisor for Elections, I served on the U.S. Elections Assistance Commission Board. And in 2016, I was elected by the 110-member body to serve as one of the members of the executive committee.
Okay.
And I attended the last meeting. Every year we held meetings, and this board, this elections board, is the board responsible for the delivery of, the doling out of funds for many of the states and jurisdictions' elections equipment, but also assistance with best practices. It's basically a hub for information for election officials and so on.
Okay.
And I attended my last meeting this last month in Miami, and I was actually the executive committee elected me as the outgoing vice chair, and that was really humbling, because I have always tried to put the Virgin Islands on the map, and for me it was really humbling to be appreciated and to essentially for my contributions. And I do commend all of those who I know who are involved in elections now, even in what's going on, even on a national level, and even what has gone on with our own elections. A lot of concerns in the past about voting equipment and so on. So that summarizes pretty much, and most importantly, I was one of the people asked, what is most defining moment, or what what motivates you? I would definitely say, for me, one of my greatest motivations is my own child. I have a 9-year-old son who I look to him and to all the children who. What are we going to leave behind for them? And I think that he's a huge reason why. I mean, he's actually one of my greatest supporters, to be honest. He's like very excited. He's very excited about politics. I mean, I guess he can't help it because his mom, of course.
Right.
But I would add that, and also last year I attended the Obama Foundation Summit. So former President Obama and Mrs. Obama established the Obama Foundation. I was one of 15,000 people, 400 people throughout the world, out of 15,000 applicants selected to take part in the summit, where we met to support our own initiatives. It was also training, and also an opportunity to brainstorm and to help the foundation establish and the biggest call to action really that the president expressed was the importance of finding your purpose and being driven, about the need for young people to be committed to a change agenda. Mrs. Obama bringing us to tears because she really expressed that if what we're doing is not for the children, then you can stop what you're doing. In other words, it's that her really pushing on the importance of bringing young people into the fold and doing our best to make this place and society better for them, whatever we can leave behind better for them.
Better for them.
Yeah.
So let me ask you a quick question here. So when did you come to the realization that you wanted to actually run? I mean, was this like a year ago? I mean, what were you doing? Were you on the beach? Were you in the movie theater? Were you just walking around in sunny isles? Poof, I'm running. Let me go sign up. How did that all transpire?
I believe that my own life mission has always been to be a servant of the people, and so my decision to run is one of long contemplation. For a number of years now, actually, I've been involved in political boot camps, particularly focused on women's political leadership. And so it's more of a build-up. It was about timing for me. The storms that have affected all of us really drove me into further action, and I think the calls when we talk about our deficit, our annuity, our GERS situation, essentially a lot of what's going on, even just right over next door to us, Puerto Rico, I felt that because of the dire nature of what's going on, that it was really time for me to step up to leadership and to be part of shaping a new future for the Virgin Islands. If that, I feel that I can hopefully bring people together to make that change. So, and my actual decision to say, okay, I'm going to run this year, really came probably around late last year, and right around right after the storm. In what I was doing, for example, I was a Red Cross volunteer. I was helping out at the shelter, at least kind of get a shelter, and just some things that were happening that I just wasn't pleased with in terms of the response, but at the same time also being pleased because I also do commend various efforts on individuals' parts, aspects of our government, whether it was the tourism department helping pick people off. I was a part of helping with the Mercy mission and Mercy flights. However, a deep concern over the overall planning problems in terms of the neighborhoods not being, individuals' homes and neighbors not being prepared, more so neighborhoods not being well prepared because there was not a lot of planning and drilling on the part of the wider community.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. So on your platform here, so let's kind of go through these.
Sure.
Just kind of, I guess you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 areas. Is that
Yeah.
that's an assessment? Okay. So let's just start from the top. You say economic development, rebuilding our economic infrastructure. So give us some details, some insight. What do you mean more specifically behind that?
So how I summarize economic development in that an economic development driving all of the things that are on this list, all intertwined. We have a lot of natural resources.
Okay.
We recognize we've been depending heavily for a long time on tourism, but we know that's not really a great way to, when we talk about developing our gross domestic product, we're talking about system economic drivers that are homegrown. So whether we talk about, as an examples, we have our own, obviously our land. There's been many discussions on agriculture. We have UVI as a land grant institution. We know, as I put out there continuously, we do not have, while it's mandated by law, agricultural curriculum. So it's a matter of looking at what we have. We also have, of course, our broadband through the originally established Global Crossings company. Of course, they built broadband. Of course, now other companies bought it out. And, so looking at what we have and leveraging that. How can we look at each island and what it offers? We've heard examples of, St. Croix being maybe a space where we can do different kinds of tours, different kinds of getting into tourism. However, we would want people to come here for special things, special reasons. We craft certain things out. Like I think of whether you go to the BVI and you go to the BATS, so you have different things that we can craft out, and we do have. And so taking what we have already and really developing, even hiking trails, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
I've been to the country of Turkey, and I found it really extensive, of course, how they've taken obviously their history and how they're, so many, there's living museums, of course, of a lot of the remnants of history, and that being, of course, a driver for, reasons why you would want to go to, to Turkey and things like that. And I think for us, we have a lot of historical significance of things that have happened here, so that's also a driver. And our cultural diversity as well. I think about what we have to offer, especially even in our food products, going back to agriculture, we have a lot of things that we can capitalize on and begin to look towards manufacturing.
So you just think expand? So agriculture here, in my bird's eye view, is in sort of a limit, sort of a capacity. Let's say 10%, but you want to push that to maybe 50-60%. So there's bigger farms, more farms,
Correct.
Making that stuff kind of available.
Absolutely, because what we're saying is we depend so much, well over, they're estimating on the Department of Agriculture, there are different numbers, but I know I've heard 98% of imported goods, and we have to think about feeding ourselves, and that's critical. And the same way we feed ourselves, that can also be a way that we get ourselves out of debt, and we begin to push for what I would say is that we need a balanced budget. Right now, we've operated in a deficit for quite some time now. Yes, we were hit by in the financial markets, crashing and all those things, but we have to, and getting deeper even into our infrastructure, we have a spending problem in government. We have a serious spending problem. And so... What
do you mean? That people are just spending uncontrollably, and
it's...
the hammer is $5, but they're willing to spend, give $15 away for it? Or to get it?
Well, if we have a deficit and we obviously are not being able to meet our demands, we have to look back at cutting back. So it's not. So it's looking at what our priorities are. The role of a legislator, the role of a senator is, and the legislative body is to have that check against the executive branch. So if we're saying that we're in a deficit, to hand over a lump sum budget and to just do a free for all is quite problematic. And in times of such stress that we're under, I would like to know that the senators are, we're going into find a place to meet, and we're going to work day and night. We're going to bring all the parties together for the governor, the financial team for the legislature. We're going to meet. We're going to work this out. GERS needs to be a lockdown, drag out overnight. For example, with the election reform, with the effort we made with the election system and the senators, we were meeting and hashing things out, and just, and that energy even stronger. But now we're talking about a bigger problem is our financial problem. I would close the door and meet. Let's not have, it's not a kangaroo hearings and stuff like that. We're talking about, actually sitting down and doing some grueling day and night kind of exhaustive work,
so
and cutting back on
giving people
a solution.
Yeah, giving people action items with a deadline, basically.
Yeah. Right.
Okay. Soup?
Education. You finished with your economic?
Yes.
Okay. Your educational revitalization, putting our children on human rights first. We know our education system right now is in a disarray. The schools them going to be in double session for the next 2 or 3 years, we saying. How do you see we coming out of this under these condition that we are in.
Teachers are leaving. I haven't heard anybody say anything about books.
And they're one of the lowest paid
Lowest paid teachers. In America now, a lot of states and a lot of like county school systems, I'm sure you've heard this, are like protesting. Teachers are like,
huge.
Yes,
and
huge.
they're getting these raises. It's like
Arizona,
5%,
West
9%. I mean, here we're protesting a little bit, I guess, but nothing's happening. So I don't understand. But tell us, how we can get education. I know the VI, the Virgin Islands culture curriculum is a thing that
instituted inside a mandated that we know what was going on from young till old.
I'm actually one of the litigants in the lawsuit, and so I sit here before you 5 years ago today as one who is determined as part of the team to enact that. Deeply disturbed by the fact that we have to go to court for our children's human. It baffles me because it is the law, and it's that. And I think back to my own experience as a child. I lived in Maryland for 3 years when my mom remarried. I lived in Maryland, and we in 4th grade we learned the history of Maryland, and we learned about slavery, and that and we went then to the slave quarters in Annapolis, and we went to the Capitol building. 5th grade, it was a focus on Native American genocide. They didn't tell us it was just history, it was a genocide. And our teachers were real about it. Time we got to 6th grade, we had a whole classroom of the world. We talked about African civilization, and we talked about Asian history, and we talked about, American history, and all intertwined. And it was about our career. What do you want to be? I said, I want to be a lawyer. And I was a town lawyer, And so I just at 6th grade thinking about my career,
right.
And so I know what it means to have an education that is meaningful, that is a quality education, and I wish for and let's talk about responsibility. So this legislative body, we've already passed the law that says that this should be happening, and so what is going on with the execution?
Right.
But we look at a conflict here because we have a board of education that is supposed to develop and deliver the curriculum. We ask ourselves, are the Board of Education members focused on curricular development and redevelopment? We look at the committee structure. Is there a curriculum committee for the Board of Education? The answer is no. So then what's the examination? Who do you hold accountable? What do? They say, okay, well, it's the department. Oh, no, it's so putting yourself in in the position as a senator, and somebody's just not enacting your law. I mean, right. We gotta start to get more. I mean, get serious, get into the weeds of this.
But is this something? Is this something that if you get in that you can get like right on and get a curriculum or get the people working on it? So maybe not for this school year, but maybe at least for the next one, we can have this in place.
Well, they started. They began to make an effort. So there's some workbooks, VI history workbooks. I've taken issue with this, particularly even, for example, the 2nd grade workbook, where I shared on Facebook about a year ago, where my son, who just finished 2nd grade, brought home at the end of the school year the VI history workbook, and the way in which they painted colonial history was very problematic and troubling. And while parents may not, and while people tell me, they're not understanding the connection of human rights.
They're not understanding
the connection in terms of we don't see like, okay, how does this translate to a career? Like knowing Virgin Islands Caribbean history, and
Wow.
but we're talking about our children's psychological development, and that is deeply tied to them, knowing themselves, and through that being inspired to do anything that their heart is set on.
Okay.
So, Geneva, the law, Genevieve, excuse me, the law is on the books that we have to implement this in the schools.
Yes, since 1983, as well as agriculture as well. Yeah.
And these things are not being done. And no one has been held accountable because no one goes out to champion for it.
Well, you have so it's Virgin Islands Caribbean History and Culture. So you do have the cultural division for the Department of Education that they have been doing cultural education, and then you do have some schools. You have some schools doing different cultural events, and we really applaud that, because some teachers have said they're going to move forward and do this anyway. But in terms of a comprehensive curriculum that you can actually pick up.
It's not being done.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so in other words, it's comprehensive. It's that if we think about Caribbean Virgin Islands history, by the time our children reach, high school, they're on another. We're talking about literature at that level,
Yes.
and it's. I mean, they're examining the entire Caribbean, the Virgin Islands, and we're going even further into African civilization
Right.
history. The other day, a group of Danish social studies teachers were here, and I asked, they were talking about, oh yeah, we do teach slave history. So I said, tell me, how does your history book begin? Do you teach at all African civilization history? And they said no. So we have actually a worldwide problem, because if we're going to teach history and remove
Move
African
our
civilization
vision
history,
from
then
it.
we're not we're not teaching world history at all,
history, yeah.
because
Yes.
where the world began in
One
terms of
side.
we talk about so it's bizarre for me. So the United Nations, though, through UNESCO, they have encouraged world governments, and
Right.
there's a lot of resources for this teaching. So we're saying that we can, in fact, develop a world history book. It can be developed,
Right.
and we've had encyclopedias being published and things like that. So, and in this context, and I see, I was actually I was part of the statue dedication, I Am Queen Mary statue in Copenhagen, Denmark, as the third speaker,
Mhm.
actually. And one thing I witnessed, although I found deeply troubling when I went to the National History Museum in Denmark, their depiction of colonial history, they want them to erase it. And in other words, General Bordeaux was missing from there. We had, just this whole bizarre depiction of Queen Mary herself. And then the statue dedication was not of her, it was of the two artists,
Together,
both
right.
Yvonne Bell and Jeanette Ehlers, two women who artists came together, the greater message being about this fact that Queen Mary and the three other women fought against colonialism and
Right.
and its effects.
And effects,
Bringing
right.
it home back to the campaign and why this is all relevant and this history is important. If you understand, and I could even look at my own journey, because I benefited from understanding my history at a young age and being exposed to truths, that has inspired my own action and desire to be part of my community. And so I think that through proper and even creating within our children lifelong learners, so that they then can be inspired to just see the world. I mean, whatever their hearts desire. So
Right.
I feel that and we have to really applaud all those who have come through the system in the same education that may seemingly be problematic. People have risen above
Yeah,
and
exactly.
but we're talking about those who are left behind.
Exactly.
Right before the show, I was kind of talking to you all about my concern about vocational education.
Right.
Mm.
How if plumbing is not being taught, carpentry, if none of the vocational skills are being taught, how then are we going to have our next set of mechanics, our next set of going back to farmers,
Right.
our next set of electricians and stenographers. I know there's even a stenography course. I don't know what's going on, and I know what's going on because I go there and I see that it's a ghost town.
Mm.
And I know that people are trying their best. So my thing now is we have a wider community. So apparently we lack resources. We know that the government. Why not, as a business community, we come together and say, okay, well, I'm a mechanic. I'll offer this amount of time.
Mm.
I'll donate my resources. We talked also about going back to economic development and tying it all in and how it ties into education. When we as a body, we go after various economic opportunities, and people come to do business and they desire to live here and get the tax benefit.
Mhm.
We have to work at restructuring the EDC program itself in the context of giving, because the giving is happening. They're required by law to give.
But what
But-
percentage is it a cent percentage at this time?
That's a
On the
good question.
books?
I have to research to see how much, what in fact they give, and that's a good question. So I would take into consideration. So, how much they give,
Right.
and essentially, it's then administered through. I know, for example, the Senatorial Foundation serves as the fiduciary for the funds and what have you. But the question becomes: how do we measure that? So going back to the legislature, we have to look at perhaps reprogramming. Redoing the program to say that, okay, we have shortages in after school programming.
Right.
Our career technical school is lacking resources. Okay, part of the money has to be dedicated to that, and even maybe for a number of years, so that we always have that consistent source of income. The Career and Technical Board is the board that oversees vocational education, which is made up of members who are appointed by the governor. we have lots of boards, but I think if we look especially at that board, that we need to appoint members, and we need to right now understand that the board, it's either it doesn't have enough members, and right now, because of lack of transparency, I can't even say, well, okay, how do I get? And I've done the information research in terms of attending the few meetings that they've ever had, and I asked a question, and I'm told constantly that, okay, well, the governor has to appoint these people so we can have a bigger board so that we can get the work done.
So the people on the board, are they technical savvy too? Are they carpenters, electricians, or they just any? It doesn't matter.
The last board meeting, I know of only 2 people who attended, and I didn't get from
how many out of how many bodies out of a body of
the body of, and so I know under the young administration, I remember seeing approximately 5 or 6 people, and at the meeting they had sometime last year, there were only, I think, 2 of the members, and I don't know. And because it's one of those things where you can't really pull up a website, you have to do a little bit deeper dive. I do know I met the chairman, vice chairman was there, and I asked these kind of questions. So those are good questions, because we have to ask, why aren't they being, what's the issue with the appointments? But perhaps just like if you don't know what's going on, how then would you even step up to the plate? So in other words, you're a business owner, maybe you might want to volunteer,
Right.
but there's no actual focus on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Vocational education is a key here, because, like you said, as the older folks move on, if the younger generation isn't trained, then then what?
Basically, we have to import.
Well, that's what's happening.
Correct.
People come in to do that work, and that's sort of the gripe on the street.
Right.
But
Then
I don't know if
we don't have the skilled, trained personnel to hire, we can't fuss them with the people.
And that's a concern, because I have spoken to EDC company owners, and that's the concern. It's again, workforce development is a committee of the legislature, and so have we been engaged in strategic models to actually do what we got to do to to match our workforce with what's coming here. So it's a lot of things in the dark. I don't know. We can't speak to these things. We don't know what's going on.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
do you think that if for vocational training, you think maybe the training is too expensive? That's why people aren't enrolling. Because I know there are evening classes, but maybe it's expensive. Maybe that's why they can't enroll. How are we going to get people involved, young people involved in vocational education, where they can do a 1-year program? How do you see that happening?
So we start that at a younger age. We're to wait till high school is a little, because we need to start to assess children at a younger age as to where they can move and start to look at their career pathways much earlier.
Things of interest.
So I would say more so vocational education can really start more in middle school.
Okay.
We lose a lot of our children in middle school, and
Okay.
that's a turning point. So I understand we have evening courses, and those are especially for the adults, and I think that's an important element. But I think we need actually to get the funds and resources to encourage our children to pursue that. So that's the daytime children.
They're in school.
Right.
Yeah.
So
School.
the junior high schools here don't have like carpentry, like woodwork, home economics, we had some other things when we were coming up. So all of those things right now are on the doormat.
I'm not aware of it being, and I'm sure, I know some schools have had different programs like rocketry and things like that, but I can't say that we have any consistency with those programs. That so correct. So back, and I've spoken to people who are older in your age group, and there was farming, there was carpentry, all kinds of stuff going on, and I'm just thinking, why do we think that those things become irrelevant? I mean, you'll always need those things. So I don't know how we feel like, and then now within the context of the new age and 21st century, and we're now, okay, so then now we do those things even in a have a computer model now to map out our plans.
Yeah.
So it's very scary though to think that there are people in position who I don't know, have they just given up? And I think if you pretty much have given up and you're no longer interested in supporting the children, I think it's let
Just
other people
take a back seat
and allow young people to rise up and to step into those positions.
Let me ask you a question. Are you in favor of giving teacher raises?
Absolutely.
Okay, it's something that you could facilitate right away, because I know that's been a hot button thing for the last 8, 9, 10 years since I've come back. You know, they're behind compared to national. They're working just as hard. I see it on Facebook. Teachers still have to go buy supplies. I go to Office Max. I see the teachers. I think they're teachers. You know, they got 2 full carts of supplies. Well, this young lady's got to be a teacher. I mean, you know, she's not buying the stuff for her own family. So, I mean, can you facilitate something along those lines? I mean,
Well,
to
it's-
get them caught up.
Well, I think that's really important. I definitely believe in teacher raise. I believe they made there were raises for the police department. I saw that.
Yes.
So giving education a priority would require that. And even so much to the extent where we go after these federal funds, we can maybe probably offset some of the salaries because we would also get funding for STEM education, in the science field, things like that.
Okay.
We can help see how some of those federal grants can in fact fund positions.
Okay.
And certainly make it attractive to become a teacher. If education is a human right, and so we have to look at it as our ability to bring us out of where we are right now.
Yeah.
It's going to take some time. Our very own children can be the ones to bring us out of this mess, and so we have to look to them as critical resources,
Yeah.
as the human resources, and to push us forward. And if we don't, I mean, we're in some dire. I mean, people may not feel we have our lights on and things are happening, roads are happening, but we're in some really bad times.
Of course,
Yeah.
very bad times.
Yeah. Moving on here, we're going to switch gears here. The next item here is healthcare reform, improving long-term healthcare and healthcare infrastructure. The hospital,
Yeah.
at times there's some rumblings about it having to close and these kind of things. I mean, I hear that, I get scared because I may need to call 911 and there ain't nobody to answer the phone. I mean, it's scary, but I mean they have a lot of problems there. I mean, how do you see? This whole thing. There's another thing too with the hospital is the cardiac center and medical tourism. I mean, any thoughts on all of that?
And one thing to add to that too, and then bombard you. Just having like another hospital here on an island instead of just this one Louis, where people gotta come from way eastern and way western. Have something. Both islands, both ends of the island that open 24 hours that people could still emergencies could come in and go to it. That's something viable towards healthcare.
Yeah, we are in a rough place. They've both been condemned, and one Center Regional Hospital losing most of its roof and things like that. So when we talk about healthcare reform, and we obviously need new hospitals. I mean, without a doubt. I mean, it's sad enough that Snyder's a newer hospital and it faced that kind of damage. So we're talking about rebuilding the hospitals without a doubt. So the hope is that the federal funds we are going to receive would be to rebuild that. But I also am concerned with what's going on inside those walls, and overall our approach to health. I will put out there, I'm very much a believer in naturopathic healthcare, and I wish to see alternative healthcare as also a means to, when we talk about healthcare access and choice, and another human right is our human right to health. And so I feel oftentimes we're constricted and we have some issues, some challenges. I look at the board for the hospital, and I think it goes to many of the things and concerns we should have in who we elect. In terms of the qualifications and also this right skill sets would be necessary to run a hospital. So GERS, the law was passed to address the types, the skill sets the required skills of people to be on the board, so that you have the right complement of community people and also people who have specific skill sets, accounting and things like that. I would argue to say that I would like to see the same for the hospital board. We have seen, and also a great level of transparency. I would like to know more about the licensing process and who's, for example, when you go through applications, we should know what that process entails, and it should be
the license to the doctors and
correct, and there should be more openness in who is even licensed. Whether it be a website that can be created where we can know who's licensed and things like that. So that information is available to the public, and also to address what I find is possibly not a embracing of alternative means. And people do have a right if they choose alternative healthcare should be afforded with the right and access to those means. And so as we touch on ways of healing and things like that, essentially I would look to naturopathic, and even looking at that, when we talk about going back to economic development, that could also be a way for us to market the Virgin Islands. You can come here, to enjoy, a special naturopathic treatment, for example. And, we have hospitals, we have actually, medicinal hospitals and naturopathic hospitals throughout the world where people actually go to that country to be healed.
Yes, they're right.
Yeah.
Right.
I think with the hospital, I think, it's a nice concept of the whole medical tourism kind of a thing, but it seems like, it's something that I've been hearing about for 10 years. I don't know that we're any closer. And I think the hurricane has sort of put a monkey wrench in that whole process too. But, for me, the things that I think are important just seem to be not moving quick enough, and now we're falling behind,
Well, but the thing about it is that if you don't have a strategy, how do you affect? I mean, no strategy, then usually things fall to the wayside. You can have a great idea, but if you don't have a strategy, how are you going to carry it out? But also, why can't we know what's going on with projects?
Right. Where's the big
You
secrecy,
have a project. Tell the public what it is, and have a way for us to be informed of where we are, the tracking of the project. Okay, I couldn't move here because of this. Okay, because and also too, you let people know what's going on, what the problems are, because maybe there's some solutions that could be had by the community. So we're talking about that's how you get the community engaged. Maybe somebody has an idea to solve that. Oh, well, maybe I want to offer, maybe for example, even with the racetrack, okay, it needs to be extended. Oh, I'm going to offer my service to help you guys extend. Or I know somebody who can, it's we conversations and being open and allowing the public to help solve government problems. And I think that's what we need to look to. This whole transparency issue with things being in the dark and for me, it's because I am doing that too. I'm just like David, I'm also doing that too. I'm tracking it, and I get more frustrated because I'm tracking this project. I'm just like, and I'm keeping note of it, and I'm just like, weird. Okay, like, can I check something off? And who do I call to say, okay, where we are with this project?
Yeah. So you think that's what's missing right now? That no one's really communicating?
Project management, and that's also a skill set too. And I would hope that we have persons, and we either have persons or help train persons within government to engage in that very task of project management, and this person being the project manager. For example, for roads, why can't we have the website dedicated for public works where we know where they're going to next, and a map of the island of and where we're focusing on, so we know where we are with the projects and how much money, even a little meter to tell you how much money we have left to spend, and if we're coming to your area next.
Well, can these things be put in law to make to make it happen? I mean, as a legislative body, do they have that power to do this right now?
Well,
certain departments of government,
or make it a requirement to be a senator that you certified project management. I mean, If I understand you correctly, this is what's lacking. Then you have a bachelor's degree, and you also have to be certified as a project manager to run for a senator, so that if you get elected, you understand how these things, this, and this, and if not this, you go here. I mean, all this stuff will fall into place. I mean, I understand project management, but it sounds like this is what's lacking, if I understand you correctly.
Well, I would say you may not want to put upon the
requirements
to run, because it's infringed on people's just overall right. But I would say we would want the skill set. We want to encourage that skill set. So what we would be doing as a body is requiring that project management information be submitted to us. So we're in this age of technology,
especially
we have
funds to build this project too.
We then set up a means in which we are regularly updated on the project. So again, we have the respective Senate committees. The finance committee pretty much drilling down on that, should be involved in the project management of what's going on with the financial system and so on, coming before us once a year to give us budget information and here and there. And just to backtrack, we have a requirement for the Office of Management and Budget that they provide. We talked about this open government, this open budget website that is lacking with a lot of information. And so because okay, we say we're going to do something, we're going to put it out there, but then we still essentially don't, we're afraid still of putting out more clear information.
But why do you think that
Yeah.
is? I mean, is it a kind of a cloak and dagger kind of thing? You know, I mean, why do you think they say they're going to do it, and then they don't do it, or do it half-assed? I mean, why do you think that is?
Well, because the greater public, where we have to focus on is what the greater public is really concerned about, and perhaps the balanced budget may not be to the extent where we, how does that affect my home? I mean, I'm simply trying to eat and do what I got to do and live. So we're not going to, push back and say, demand more open government because we don't, because in terms of priorities, that's not, we just want to know, are we going to get the things that we need, are able to, right now, our food, are we going to be able to just live? Basically, our big thing right now is our roads, which is a huge thing. And we've seen that happening.
Yeah, that's a disgrace right now. We
yeah.
can't except drive your car comfortably, your truck, whatever, on this island no more because it's like you just every time you drive in on a road, you miss a hole, and then the next day again is another hole.
Our cars are suffering, and even our bodies enough.
Oh man,
our physical bodies are suffering because of this roads. I mean, I know people.
I know people literally walking potholes and break their leg on St. Croix. No BS.
Wow.
Walking potholes and broken legs. Body. Man, this is it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. It's reached a stage now. This thing is really sickening.
Yeah.
And again, we put in this U.S. territory behind of us. So let's act. If you want to act, U.S. do the right thing. Let's do the. I feel like right now is time for change, and change to come quick. So
And quick is the operative word here.
Yeah, quick.
We've been waiting around
Quick.
too long.
yeah.
Quick.
So
We're going on the next topic, right?
Yeah.
Annuity program, GRS retirement,
Retirement
and the security.
security.
We
Another
keep hearing
mess.
this thing. By 2023, this thing will be insolvable. It's going to crash. But they still keep taking our money every day, and we don't see no justification of what been done. So, to you being a lawyer too, and I'm going to ask you this question with this too also. What is the degrees of separation between public corruption and street crime, if there is any at all?
Well, we have to examine GRS from various perspectives.
Right.
It's a dire problem. Just to put out, to be clear to the public, GERS makes up 25% of our GDP. If it crashes, not just the retirees and the people who are putting in
25%. Say that again, Ms. Whitaker.
25%.
Okay, 25% people.
Of our GDP.
25.
If it crashes, so everybody who's listening to me, doesn't matter if you don't even work for government, never work for government. GRS is crashing, or the imminent, situation will affect our daily
Everybody.
life.
Yeah.
Everyone. So we all have to be concerned. We have an unfunded liability that the legislature, over various measures, continues to push on, and we have not sustained it. We know of concern with GRS in terms of the issues of issuance of loans, but many of those loans that they issued, those people actually paid, for those people didn't default. We might question, okay, why did they give to this and why did they give to that? Right. But it's not even a question of those defaulting. The greater issue is what? The government not putting in the amount of money every year necessary to sustain the fund, now up to $1.6 billion.
1.6.
They have been asking for $600 million in cash to shore up the fund, to levelize it, but it will not solve it. They actually need cash, and they need it quickly.
Quick.
So that, and with the urgent nature, do we see especially our legislature, are they? I want this to shut the door and just meet then. I mean, I don't.
Go down, knock it out.
It's going to require. I mean, it's going to require a lot of strength and energy to
get this thing.
Get with GRS, get with the members. You guys get together and knock it out. Bring the drafters of the legislation and hammer this out. I mean, Puerto Rico, I mean, I guess we got to take a trip to Puerto Rico, but we see the suffering. I mean, even after the storm, with the serious suffering going on,
of course,
we're still suffering. You fly over, you see what? Blue tops.
And they're blowing off. They ain't no more.
Rain is coming. People are suffering, man. And it's like, and so even to tell the person who has a blue top in the roof, oh, by the way, you should be concerned about GRS and push back on your government. Well, you know,
He can't work with that. He got to think about getting.
yes.
doing
So
s-
let's talk about where the responsibility is at.
Hmm.
Okay, so it's an election year now. What are the senators going to do from now until the end of the
In
December
December.
to help push GRS? I know that some of them are running for the campaigns. I get that, but what is the work going to be done from now to December to address this failing situation? What are they going to do? And are they going to do it in silence? And it scares me to think that
what
I don't
can
know.
we do? I mean, what can we do? I
Ariel?
mean, yeah, what can we do to fix it? 'Cause I
Yeah,
know
it's not a quick fix, but what I'm saying is that why not work on hammering
Getting it-
down
getting it-
actually, why don't they come up with an actual strategic plan to say, okay, this is our plan now, and we're going to begin to work against our plan. Draw in whatever, examine, get all of the information as to what our resources are. Find out what are the quick ways we can get revenue, what we have right now. Serious cutting down of spending.
Yes.
We gotta stop. We're gonna have to cut down. I mean, like, I'm just thinking, like, I see it as very dire that we're gonna say just turn off the cell phones and park up the vehicles. And because, I mean, we're suffering so much right now that even a page, let's say, a whole entire pay period,
Can be
payless
met.
paydays
Can be
and all
met,
that. I mean,
yes.
that would be dire to the average family right now in the Virgin
That's right.
Islands.
Right
It would
now.
be dire.
No, that's right.
And it's happened before in our history.
Yes.
Recent history too.
Yes.
So
And it's not
what
been
do
addressed.
we say now? What do we say? What do we do? We got to. There's no way we could continue this way. And the senators have to say, we're going to also examine ourselves. I took issue, yes, with the whole thing of them going to the sea trade again. I'm just like, where are you going? And to go to meet with the cruise line industry, I get that, but that's the commissioners. She's doing that. She's doing it. Good job with that. Let the
Let her
office
do that,
let
yeah.
them do that. Why do you need a?
Yeah. Why
What's the money spent to that? I want to see you go somewhere. Hey, let me go after this company. Come to the Virgin Islands. Let's do business here. Help us recover. You benefit from here. We get things going. These are our challenges. I want to see them do that kind of work. When they go away to the China, the Taiwan delegation, okay, what's the next step? Because other than that, it's just all bells and whistles.
Yeah. I know, Soup, you talk about, in reference to the GRS, the 401k, sort of an option.
Right,
I mean, to retirement. I mean, any thoughts on that? As an option to fix it?
Well, I do
Or
believe.
give us a choice, or give the people them a choice.
Correct.
And,
And
looking
I,
at the demand that
and-
you have to put it in a system that's failing.
And I understand that is actually a model, a choice that could be given. And so that's also on the table as well. I understand from I actually had opportunity to actually meet with the director, Dr. Nibbs, and that was explained to me that essentially that is an option. However, they're just it's such a dire situation right now that, unless you have a stable system, how then you begin to
Switch.
reform and switch to then that model.
So basically, they need this influx of cash, raw cash, to come in and make it happen.
That's right.
And they're not doing. I mean, is it viable? Is it? Can we get to that point that we don't have to say this thing is not going to crash no more? Because if we don't put our money in, and we don't see where it's coming from, well, eventually it's going to crash.
That's right. That's right.
Okay. Public safety, crime prevention, youth delinquency prevention. Crime here at times is a little sporadic.
But again, it goes back to the degrees of separation of public crime between public crime and street crime. Is there a separation? Is there? Because I see these guys in their suits, exactly like
White collar versus.
exactly like GRS again. Why is it that every administration comes and goes? We keep hearing these problems. So the person who is in charge or who is responsible, somebody has to be responsible. Somebody has to go out the helm and say, you know what, man.
Screw it
I
up.
don't know. I don't know. But it just seemed to me that something here, I'm not seeing it right, because if you're taking my money and just today, May 10, 2018, a young lady met me today. She previously used to work at a hospital. She said, Campbell, these people taking my money. I went to check on it to see if I have anything inside of it, they tell me my balance is 0. She put in, okay, just say she put in 10 years, and she don't have a balance because there's nothing there. You taking my money every 2 weeks, and then when I go to check on it, there's nothing. So now I'm supposed to still feel comfortable like getting up every day, and I just go in and just, like, I'm just feeding this machine. I'm just like,
Well,
And not getting any benefits from it.
And again, no one is being held accountable. In my eyes, I don't know nobody else's eye, but in my eyes, nobody's been held accountable for what's been done.
and we've had legislators that's actually enabled this behavior, because the executive branch can only give what they have to give and help shore up. But the legislature has created this reality of the unfunded liability. It wasn't actually the executive branch creating the unfunded liability. It is through legislative acts over the period of the 30 years of this underfunding, because they've just underfunded it from the beginning, because it's, and then as the audit showed, various times of the GRS definite corruption, because you had an audit that showed mismanagement, and an audit that showed poor choices in going and using the market system, and so that's a concern as well. But I think the whole issue is to, again, making tough decisions. The tough decision, of course, was to cut people off, sadly enough, from being able to borrow against their own money, and that's been real hurtful to a lot of people.
Yes.
And and then the thought about retirees not getting a paycheck, and if it crashes, especially those who are on a fixed income.
And they already done give out their whole 30, 40 years into this system, and not to come up to tell me now that I can't have it, just to tell me,
It took 30 years to get us here. It's going to we can't wait 30 years to fix it now. There's some immediate actions, but it's going to take some time and some really hard work.
And then the month ago, there was a meeting up at the cardiac center, and straight up, they went to court. There was a court order, and these people are still not following this court order. So then again, going back to the same question: is there a degree of separation between public crimes and street crimes? It comes back down to this again. I robbed David, I gonna be put in jail, but government robbed me is okay.
Exactly.
But then also, what message are we sending to these youths now? That you want to tell them now to prevent crime, to stop crime, and so we really sending a double message,
Double standard.
a double standards. Something is publicly not right. So again, we have to have strong leaders to make these strong
Very strong.
decisions.
Their decisions. You're going to become maybe labeled as a bad guy, but we think about I would even, it's, I guess, tough love, because at the end of the day, if we don't change anything, we're in a bad, we were victims of hurricanes, and it devastated many of our lives. Compound that with, total, societal failure in terms of, complete economic downturn and a crashing of the system and so on. And then thinking about, what if we do get another set of storms, even more vicious? This same year, we have to prepare ourselves, and we also have to prepare ourselves for the worst, and to, and in a sense, many ways, see this as a dire situation, which it is, a government that's in deficit, and what we can do to change course, and having the strength and the leadership. We have to build consensus in there. We're going to have to work together across. It's not about party lines.
No more, exactly.
Party, no party. Not a party line here. We're saying
Democrats,
working then and day and night and sleepless nights, and do whatever it takes. I can't impress upon the need to put in the work that's going to be necessary. And I hope that if elected, people let me say when elected, that I will have, that my colleagues would share the same opinion, and they would desire what's called a balanced budget. I know that might be forward in today's time. And to begin to look at re-examining what's in the books already. A lot of what I'm saying here, and my themes are rebuilding and so on, because what we're saying is that there are a lot of things in place already. The curriculum actually is in place already. It's a matter of
implementing
the curriculum law to tell you to do it's in place right now, but it's a matter of implementation.
They're not being implemented.
Yeah. Right. Okay, as we roll on here, public safety. That's your fifth item here. What specifically are you
Well, for me, as definitely as one who has been quite involved with crime prevention and both actually experientially from very young, being a mentor, being a guardian ad litem, working with at-risk children, all these things throughout my life. With public safety, and we talk about it from a correctional perspective, but also prevention, we have to have, and I remember when I first came home also getting involved with the police departments. It was essentially the community policing entity. We need more of that. We need a strong community policing plan where our officers are part of the communities, and we see them and we are familiar with them as to build levels of comfort and relationship building. It would involve members of the community getting together and also level of transparency. I don't know whatever happened to the entity, and I don't know what's going on with respect to policing in terms of that level, but I also know we have some challenges within the police department. I attended the use of force consent decree forum, a meeting.
That was recent, right?
Yes, and
Okay.
we're almost 14 years into that consent decree there, and the last stretch. But I asked of the monitors, the fiduciary people, consent decrees are supposed to be like forever. It's not, and I also asked about their qualifications because I always find it interesting how people are appointed to those positions and how did you get on there and truly, people, they desire to they're important because we have to address our issues. However, I find a lot of these fiduciary relationships to be problematic and to be examined because what is the goal in the end? You're saying that they're only a few items away from closing. So why do we still need you if they're 85% into compliance? Why are you still here? And then ask the federal government. You're going to spend millions of dollars to monitor us when we have shortages within our different divisions. Our juvenile justice division is short. Why can't those millions of dollars you're spending to implement our use of force issues, why can't that be redirected to programming to address some of those same deficiencies we say in terms of the reason why we're in the consent decree in the first place?
How long more we have to go? Do you know right now?
They estimate that 2 more years, 2-3 more years, but but I think
There's
they've probably there's no set time.
Yeah. If they're in the board meeting, just pop up and they could just decide how much more longer they want to go.
That's right. And Judge Gomez is the judge.
Is there any data being produced for us to see that we are making progress, we are doing what we're supposed to do?
So on my and I'll just promote my Facebook page. So it's Genevieve Whitaker for Senate.
Right.
For Senator. I actually attended the meeting and I have provided links on that page. There actually is a website. So if people look at go to my Facebook page and go under notes, I actually did a summary of that meeting and I provided the link. So the monitors have a website where you can keep updated as to where they're going.
Okay.
And then the public meetings, which should have been held, and that was one of the they've become a little bit more transparent, but they have a lot of work to do still because we should have known about this use of force a long time ago. I think it wasn't very public the last few years.
Okay.
Sustainable and regenerative development, protecting our environment.
Yeah, no, so I know regeneration is a big word, but we always say sustainable development, but regeneration really talking about a lot of impacts of whether we talk about even Hovenza, Lime Tree now, the impacts of those industries and how we can address those issues. Our landfill, some real dire things, I would say, but also looking at it from an economic perspective as well. The business of recycling and business models that can be created as a result.
Right.
Going back to the fact that the law is already there, another law that's there that fails to be implemented.
It's really we have all these laws, but nothing.
The Department of Planning and Natural Resources, the Waste Management Authority, and the University of Virgin Islands Extension Services shall develop a recycling program. Not may, but shall. It's already there.
Okay.
We asked the questions of they wanted to burn the trash the other day, but let's talk about best practices, what we could learn from right here in the region. I remember attending when I was working at the legislature. I took part in a waste management best practices conference where people from around the Caribbean came together. We were on St. John.
Right.
I mean, that was actually a good meeting because but the question was, okay, we met. great ideas.
It came out.
What was the next step?
What did it go for?
I was like, and, I guess that was my first introduction. I mean, as I came home and started working
Right,
legislative, I was like, okay, this is my first, introduction to, okay, and I'm all excited. I'm young, and I'm just like, yes, I attended this. I'm like, oh, Barbados has a great bottle. Look how they did their bottle. And then being kind of like, okay, well, sad. Because I think back at that experience, because I'm just like, there's the answer. Find out who their vendor was and get the information, and let's get going.
Yeah.
But guess what? We're in a consent decree with the FAA, the Federal Aviation Agency, and what they're saying is that, okay, it impacts travel. So again, another fiduciary model where we're being fined. Why can't we turn that around and say, hey, help us to get the resources so we can retrofit and have a landfill, a successful landfill.
Yeah.
Help us. I mean, and the EPA being really problematic. This whole self-monitoring of a pollutant industry shocks the consciousness of me. I mean, I don't know if anybody feels that way, but how do you leave to now Lime Tree, and we left it to Hovenza? Self-monitor. You are going to tell us what garbage is and what
pollutants
level of emissions
is coming out in the air.
How do we put it? How is that right? That cannot be. Isn't the responsibility regulation? Again. Self-regulation in the context of. I mean, that is downright scary. And with BP spills and so on and so forth, we said we're going to continue that. And now we're going even deeper underwater. So we're going to actually
dig up
drill out.
You understand?
Wow.
Dredgeable. So, and then again too, because again nobody really probably knows the effect on how much damage has been done right
Potential
now.
damage,
Even the damage that has left, Hovenza left there. No, they're really not giving us no data. They're not really telling us. The EPA comes in, they do 2 little air testing, and they go. Do the EPA have an office here in the Virgin Islands?
That's a good question now that I know of. I mean, I'm assuming they would operate out of the DPNR if they were. But I know, but of course, DPNR has the environmental protection division, because one of the divisions is environmental protection.
Right. Yes, but we don't know. You being a lawyer, how do you feel about our Attorney General here right now having the responsibility of being appointed by the governor? Or do you feel that this position should have been an elected position?
So it hasn't worked out well as we've seen ever, because in one instance, it could work out to the extent where, in fact, that Attorney General is carrying out their statutory duties and not feeling constrained by the governor who appointed them. I do support an elected Attorney General. Of course, if they have to have the qualifications. Of course, we laid out this way, even if we elect our judges, as an example. So I do support the effort. I believe there's an effort up front. I haven't heard it being broadcast, but I believe there's a possibility. I believe there might be a bill that's been presented to have an elected Attorney General, but I haven't heard much else about it. Just again, so I would support that. I would support that law, elected Attorney General. Yes. Right.
So this is just a legislative law that have to be put in place.
Correct. Because actually, right now, one of their statutory duties is conflict of interest.
And
we know
that.
That one's hard for me to
very hard to
because as I think about the fact that it's not being done, that's just scary to me. That scares me a lot because we need ethical reform, and it's not on my platform, but those are the bread and butter issues that we talk about, systemic changes.
Right.
We have to bring that.
To see change.
We have to bring that, especially in a small society where a lot of people know each other.
Exactly.
Conflict of interest is critical. Policies around that
got to be put in place.
Yeah.
Go ahead, David.
Well, you got more questions on that? Or?
No.
Okay, I was going to jump onto another topic because we're kind of running out of time here. Okay. The whole industry of weed, medical marijuana legalization. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, we've seen just this extensive growth as state by state, legalizes it and both recreationally and also medicinally. I am a health advocate, so I would say that openly in terms of smoking, I do not think that you should smoke anything, in the sense that, but that is your right, though, in the context of if people choose that, but we look at the medicinal aspects. I actually really support a lot of the rubs and all the other health. I mean, there are a lot of health factors with it, and we look at it as an economic driver, definitely. So if we properly regulate it, but we have to look at who's going to benefit. There was a big effort a few weeks ago. I know Senator Nelson, it was essentially a recognition of the day. But what was not really highlighted and really known is that within the industry, only 1% of people of color actually are able to tap into the industry. And so that becomes an actual issue.
Yes, sir.
So if we do develop it here, we have to ensure that the rank and file Virgin Islander and the persons who are here, who are, who are local, are going to in fact benefit
from it.
from
Exactly.
this industry.
But why can't they? Why wouldn't they? I mean, why can't we
Well, it's laws
build a
like-
structure
So
that would allow us to be more to
yeah.
get the benefits of it?
So there was a documentary also as part of that effort, and you have efforts where we help through different policies and programs, whether it be giving you your set of your land and giving you tax breaks so that you can actually develop the land and the resources and tools to,
Right.
to grow. So that would be the part of the Department of Agriculture to help with that and looking at licensing in terms of that whole procedure. So, and then the medicinal aspect is all the research done around it. We can have, in fact, talking about this, going back to naturopathy, you can have elements of that even available through the naturopathic hospital. So I do support and believe that, and I think we have to get beyond. I mean, look what Antigua just did. I mean, what did
Yeah.
he do? What did the prime minister do? Enough with it. Apologize against what they did for Rastafarians, because it was also, they were also targeted. I know in the Bahamas they've been targeted a lot of different places, and pushing back against that and saying now we want to open this up for opportunity for our people, and we're going to do it the right way and push back against what has been essentially a way in which to oppress people, because now because of the criminal element that we made it
Yeah.
into.
Yeah. I mean, I think if we do that here, man, this place would be in a much better position. But that's just my 3 cents. Some people call it the low-hanging economic
Fruit.
lightning bolt that we need. I
Yeah.
think that if we can follow the model of the states
Yeah,
have done
Colorado
this,
and all this,
and just make it fit here. And I think too, with that in particular, that industry in particular, that we all have to do our part. Soup, me, you, everybody, because that's the only way it's going to work. Everybody has to do their part. There can't be any hating. But ultimately, if it's done right, we'll get $10 million
Yeah.
every year that could be used for schools and
Roads.
teacher salaries and roads and that kind of stuff. But everybody's got to play their part, what else we got? Mental illness.
Yeah, this is a big issue.
This is a
here.
big issue. There's a lot of people here that are struggling, that are not right, and they're just kind of roaming around. And I think after the
Pushed
hurricane,
to
we
the
saw a lot.
wayside.
Yeah, after the hurricane, we saw a lot of them hanging around, and you see them. Any thoughts on mental illness? And
Well, it rings home for me. When I first came home from law school, I was actually it was a person who was mentally ill, who mistook me for somebody, and for months I was actually in fear of my own safety. At one point, even throwing stuff at my vehicle and stuff like that. So I know what it and I mean I really relate to that. And even one time with the elections office, with somebody coming in who acted out, and it was very, very scary experiences. And we all see that, but also those who just are simply maybe non-violent, but that they're really suffering. It's quite sad, and it's hurtful to know that people are suffering out there like that. Why can't we have a facility for them? And going back to some of the naturopathic approaches, maybe to help them, rehabilitate. Why don't we have a facility for them? I mean, why? Why? Why can't we deliver on that?
Could you? I mean, is there a way to get money through grants or
Absolutely.
that kind of stuff, fundraising? I don't know, to get money to maybe.
Come into build.
So I say human service is a big player in this, and Department of Health, two big players. Drive that agenda to get us forward with, building the right facility for them, and then with that, helping to train the next set of mental health professionals.
Yeah.
Because we want to be able to help support.
Yeah, for the turnaround.
The turnaround and the continuum of care.
Yeah, right, that takes place. We're going to our next subject. We're going to talk about accountability for the senators, reapportionment. What's your take on reapportionment?
Yeah. I think that is something that I've always been a supporter of municipal governance, and I feel that is one step towards that direction. And what will be a number of steps necessary to get us where we need to get to have proper representative government. I am definitely in full support of the effort to move us in that direction. That proposal, and again, coming from a group of people, the St. Croix Retirees Group, in doing what? In pushing for an initiative which will become law. When we talk about reapportionment and we talk about greater level of accountability, we're looking at a measure by which we can actually lay out within a map structure our actual legislative districts. And those people have to run within their own respective districts. Giving, we've had challenges of St. John, their actual, over time actually decreased in the representation of people from St. John. And so looking at that, so we have to examine it from the perspective of a move towards municipal governance. I also envision even our island administrator being, as we keep pushing towards municipal government, being somebody who's elected.
Elected also.
So I support that. Mayor ordinances being pushed through city council, things like that, and essentially a move forward. So I definitely believe that it's a good move in that direction, and I do applaud this effort of the group to rise up and to go through the initiative process. And just by way of understanding, it's they got their first set of signatures. It passed through. They went through the titling board, made up of the supervisor of elections, the attorney general, and the legislative, the council for the legislature.
Okay.
And they had a titling board, and they're moving forward now, collecting the next set of their signatures for then consideration to be on the general election ballot.
Mm.
Of course,
Okay.
it goes through the legislature. They can refuse it, they can accept it, and they can change it, and then it moves down to it'll be in the ballot either way.
Okay, okay. Any thoughts on renewable energy? I know that,
Solar, wind, volcanic, ocean.
ways to generate energy,
Yeah.
naturally.
Yeah.
Any?
Well, we know for a fact that the solar farms, some did okay, but for the most part, a solar farm structure may not make it through a lot of our Category 5 storms if we get them. But there's still an importance of need for that. So I also learned, because I was been listening, and I know that there's really not much you can do in terms of putting a solar panel on your roof to be able to essentially survive a storm.
Yeah, 50,
but
50,
yeah,
50.
correct. So there's other ways now. In fact, I learned a lot about the inverter system. So I actually bought an inverter system after the storm, and using battery power. So I learned a lot about that. So that's very interesting to me, to look at new ways of generating energy.
So
I think-
that gets energy from batteries?
Yeah, use diesel level batteries, and so it's a whole system. You power it up, and you can also add in a solar panel to it, and to make it work for you. I know lithium batteries, and so I think the Energy Office has a role as well in terms of education around that. I think I wish to have seen more about that education right after the storm.
Right.
I'm not a fan of too much generators are pollutants. So we talk about renewable. We're talking about
Natural,
green friendly ways.
Right.
You mentioned the ocean. I
Mhm.
mean, there are great models of generating energy through the ocean.
Yes.
So I would much rather see a lot of use of the water, our waters itself,
Right.
to generate energy, as opposed to building up all these, wind, these
Turbines.
because they're also kind of eyesores, as I
Right.
see it. And I'm concerned about having too many solar panels, because even that, it kind of takes over our neighborhood. But you can have some solar farms, but we know that in our climate, I would much rather, why can't we, we balance it out? I do applaud the efforts that we have seen in the building of the solar farms, and many people actually taking advantage of, a few years ago, of the credits to have, solar power, water heaters and things like that.
Mhm.
And we have to look at climate change, though, and I think that's something that we have to look really heavy at, because when we talk about renewable, it all ties in. We do, in fact, need a climate change agenda. And I don't know where we're at in terms of that agenda.
Okay.
So the hope is that we bring focus to that. The hope is also that we do that work as well. I mean, I guess sometimes there's a lot of work to be done, but we pick and choose what's important, and when we prioritize it, but we're asking ourselves all these questions, and we're asking, why aren't they being done right now?
Yeah.
And it's just pretty darn scary
Yeah.
to know that
Exactly.
I'll be honest. I
That's
mean,
not being
I'm,
done.
I'm running out of. I mean, that's what I'm running into. I'm running because I am just like a frustrated voter myself.
Right.
I could really honestly say that I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
I'm just like, no, let me just get into this thing. Let me see what I can do because
You know you could.
You could affect change.
I gotta drive change. We gotta get together and get this done. And I
Yeah.
know, and I want to have this kind of energy to be sustainable because I know that change is not gonna come easy.
Nope.
It's not gonna come in one effort. I have 6 things here. It might take, how long it might take
Of
to
course.
be accomplished. But I'm gonna say, okay, let's prioritize, but let's also be in touch with the people. Let's always come back. And my motto is, believe in Genevieve, and we will achieve. We could change, so that, believe in ourselves, believe in what I possibly can do with others to make us move, to move in a better direction. We got to turn this thing around.
Yeah.
How you're taking and the senators keeping like a quarterly public forum?
Absolutely.
What's your take on that?
They have a public media division. I would like to hear from them. We should be hearing from them. You have senators, applaud them. Some of the senators, you have a few senators who actually send you newsletters, things like that.
Right.
But yes, a public forum where we, the public, can engage you. You cannot be afraid of confrontation.
Right.
You cannot be afraid of that.
Okay.
You're a public servant.
Mm.
We have to hear from you. After the storms, that we should have heard from people. The governor held press conferences consistently. What happened to the press conference from the legislature? They're 2 different entities.
Yeah. Yeah. Those guys were kind of very quiet.
Lost.
Very quiet.
Come on.
They were
And guess what? And it's okay to admit to that.
Yes.
I mean,
But
are
let me
you
move
going to
forward
be
now.
angry if, okay, I'm hurting too? Help me.
Exactly.
Don't be afraid to ask for help. Because sometimes the solutions are right around
there,
us.
that's
and
right.
people want to give. And so we have to kind of stop that. We have to stop being afraid of the public. Not just when we're coming for your vote and knocking on your doors. We got to say that we're going to want to continue that forward. And it shouldn't be 1 or 2 senators. It should be the public affairs division is doing a wrap up of the bills and things like that. And we're coming forward with our plans.
Okay. Let me ask you one more question. How would you go about convincing your other colleagues, either here in the St. Croix district or the St. Thomas St. John district, in your favor? So by that I mean, if you're for medical marijuana and you see that this would work, how would you convince Senator A that is on the fence or probably leaning more towards not doing anything with it? How would you convince this person? What would you say to them to sort of get their vote to
Yeah.
move forward on something?
Yeah, and that requires really sitting and listening to them as well. I mean, finding out, okay, what are the impediments? What did they see as the challenge? Why they have that position, and to present the facts to them. If we want to talk about trips, take a trip to the states that have changed the law, and in fact, we can go right to Antigua. They just did it. Build a case and take them along with you. Because at the same time, when we're going to develop the industry, we should look to best practices. And we can also we got to also realize many of us know this already.
No.
We're part of the Caribbean. We got to work on this interconnection for all of our familial relationships, our whole historical,
Totally.
history of us as Caribbean peoples.
Yeah.
And that the solutions are made us be right next door.
Okay. Any more questions, Soup?
No,
We've got everything covered.
yes.
We went through our checklist.
Yes, that's basically it.
And I guess the one thing, too, that I wanted to ask you about is voter registration drives. I don't know, do they do that here where I guess maybe, you say on a certain day, like Monday, you'll be here, and the purpose of you being there is to get people that are registered to vote.
So the board has a duty to conduct voter registration drives, and the process that people can it involves simply sending a letter to the board and asking for them to conduct the drive. So they have been doing that. That's required by law, but also individual.
But you wouldn't be involved in that. That's just something that they would do. But you wouldn't be.
So for the most part, they have had. I see the different districts have done different things. I mean, St. Thomas board, St. Thomas and John District Board, they were conducting registration drives at candidate forum, but that's not been done in St. Croix. So I don't. That's pretty much, I guess, the purview of the respective board. So essentially, though. I think we have a lot of people who are registered to vote already,
Yeah.
and the question becomes, are we going to get them to come out to vote, and the encouragement. And so I definitely do encourage people to register to vote, to voice your concern, and those who essentially have qualms get to. But I think as I want to close out is that get to know who your elected official is, and we as people who, or I should rather get to know even the people who are seeking elected positions in asking the question of them, and even asking and reaching out to them. And so I'm happy to provide the platform again on Facebook. First of all, my website also, I forgot to mention, is GenevieveWhitaker.com. My name is spelled Genevieve, Whitaker, WHITAKER.com. So it's GenevieveWhitaker.com. The phone number for the campaign is 340, of course, 690-2375. And you can find us on Facebook, Facebook.com, Genevieve Whitaker for Senator. And so essentially you can find me in those mediums. We're also looking for persons to join the campaign. If you're interested in joining the campaign, we have a dedicated website address for those who want to sign up as volunteers for the campaign. It's GOTV@GenevieveWhitaker.com. So we invite people to sign up and get involved. And as I say, it's really a movement of people, and under the moniker of the Progressive Movement for the Virgin Islands.
Yeah. And one thing I forgot to ask, are you Democrat, Republican, Independent?
Independent. No
okay.
party.
I see a lot of independents on that list. Is that like the new wave now?
Well, I can only speak to the fact that I've been independent for 5 years, and I'm also an independent thinker. I mean, that's how I see myself. But so that, and I do respect the party system, but I would say that for me, it's being independent thinker, and to reach out to the masses, and I see that as a platform to do that.
Okay. Well, we'll give you just a couple of minutes to just sort of wrap it up and let everybody know that they got to vote for you.
Well, again, thank you for having me on the show. Again, my name is Genevieve Whitaker, and I am a candidate aspirant for the 33rd Legislature of the Virgin Islands. I am asking for your vote and your support, as I do believe that I can make the difference. I'm prepared. I am one who has done her homework, and one who stands ready to take on the role as your servant.
Okay.
So again, thank you, and have a good evening. Thank you so much.
All right, you are quite welcome. Soup, any final words?
Miss Whitaker, Genevieve, thank you very much. I wish you all the best, much success. The Most High bless you. Rastafari live, one perfect love.
Yeah, and we like to say one perfect love is our prayers and his blessings. When you put it all together, you get one perfect love, man. So on that note, we're out. We want to thank our guest tonight, Genevieve Whitaker, for coming in. She's running for a seat in the St. Croix district here in the Virgin Islands, coming up in November.
That's right.
Much success to you. Just if you get in there, we need to see change. We need to see change.
Put those boots on and
and
go running.
Yeah, just
Be
get
that
things
concrete.
just get things done. I mean, and I've been here 10 years now, and very little things, in my opinion, have changed. And I gauge change by what I see in my neighborhood, not in your neighborhood or his neighborhood, but in my neighborhood. Streets are paved, lights are up, and things are looking like, okay, I can say, okay, they're working for me, and I'll feel proud. On that note, we're out. I want you guys to have a great weekend. We'll be back next week, Tuesday, I think, on the schedule, if I'm not mistaken. It's Albert Bryant and his running mate. They should be here on Tuesday. We're looking forward to that. But anyway, real quick, this is the It's Your Perspective talk show every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 8 p.m. until. Link us up on Facebook. It's Your Perspective talk show. I'm David, a.k.a. Kimber, a.k.a. Christian, alongside
Bingy Soup.
On that note, we're out. We'll see you guys next week. Peace.
So how did this division come? And how are these decisions made? And can you tell me who is to blame?